I exited for and was the final amount. It's not bad to get an extra 100 in your account.
This is Joe James. Joe has launched multiple brands on Amazon, has already had an exit, and is currently launching and scaling more brands on the platform. In this interview, you're going to learn how he built a successful subscription-based brand on Amazon.
I had some customers buy from me every single month for basically 3 years.
How much of a percentage of your revenue was driven by subscribe and save?
I think towards the end it was comfortably over 50%. Comfortably over 50%.
How he's leveraging AI to find new product ideas.
And then ChatGPT as well. So for example, a prompt I would use is something as simple as
how to use self-imposed pressure to your advantage.
For me personally, burning the bridges and not giving yourself a plan B is the way I work best.
And some essential advice for new to Amazon folk.
Any advice to people like just starting to get into Amazon FBA now?
I'd probably say just,
as usual, get your notebook. This one is a belter. Go. Joe, welcome to the channel, mate.
Welcome, mate.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
So, bit of housekeeping for our viewers in the US. You're going to hear a bit of a odd accent coming out of Joe, so we might have to put subtitles in. So a bit of low blow to start the podcast with. Joe is from a little place called Wales. Joe, where are you from in Wales?
So it's a small town called Llanelli, which is just west of Swansea.
And how's that
just
spelled,
spell
mate?
out for you?
Yeah, put it on the screen, shall we?
L-L-A-N-E-L-L-I.
Why do they always sound
no
like
one's
diseases?
Mate, you've got culture. Do you know what I mean?
Right, we're going to lose all our Welsh subscribers now. All three of them. Right, Joe, mate. We wanted to have you on, mate, because another member of Honest FBA who's done amazingly well with Amazon. I know you've done a number of different brands now, and you've got like huge plans to keep growing. Plus, you've had an exit as well, which is super interesting. So we're going to dive into that. So to kick it off, can you give us a bit of a backstory of your pre-Amazon life?
Yeah, of course. Where do I start? I mean, like I said, I'm from Wales originally. Been working from the age of 16 pretty much after I dropped out of school. I didn't drop out. I finished A-levels when I was 18, but I didn't go to university. So especially, being from South Wales is quite a deprived area. So I always wanted to sort of achieve stuff, do something with my life, if you know what I mean. So I actually moved to London when I was 20, where I got an internship at a stockbroking firm. I watched Wolf of Wall Street and I thought, that's going to be me. Do you know what I mean? So I started an internship at a stockbroking firm in London. It was literally just 250 calls a day, ringing up non-stop, try and get leads, try and close clients. That's all it was, basically. So thankfully, I passed that internship, had a full-time job, but the company I was working for wasn't great. So yeah, I was in the financial services industry then. I then got qualified as a stockbroker, where I worked for 3 years in Bristol. That industry is on a decline massively. It's not like you see in the films, believe it or not. It's not something I wanted to be in long term. So I moved to a different role. But even when I was working all these jobs, I absolutely hated it. I never fitted in within the corporate world, if you know what I mean. Being told what to do, sat at a desk 10 hours a day, 5 days a week for 48 weeks of the year. The thought of doing that for 40 years made me want to end it, if you know what I mean. Not that bad, but it was awful. Very, very bad. So yeah, I always wanted to work for myself. Didn't know what I wanted to do. So when I was working in Bath as a mortgage and insurance broker, so Bath is another city in the UK. I wasn't actually working in a Bath, if you know what I mean.
Mate, I think
just to clear.
FYI, fun fact, Joe, I'm from there. So
yes, you are, mate. I know. Shit all. And I went to basically start looking at ways I could make money online. And then I accidentally came across Amazon FBA on Twitter at the end of 2019. So in summer 2019, I spent the entire summer road trip in the US. And then when I came, I say the entire summer, it's about like 3-4 weeks or something. And then
your holiday you were allowed to take from work, basically.
My maximum, saved them all for just that trip. Yeah, basically. And then I came back and the company I was working for made some changes, which, you got bonuses and commission based off different stuff, which didn't suit the way I worked. And basically, I just hated every single minute of it. And I thought, after what I've just experienced, I want that to be my life. So I thought no matter what it takes, I will find a way to make that happen. So then I was on Twitter, online, just reading stuff as much as I could, basically. And then accidentally, I came across another British fella called Lawrence King, who some of you might know if you're on Twitter. And at the time, he was selling on Amazon. And he was just talking about Amazon. I'd never heard of it. I was like, Amazon FBA, reading into it, and I saw these people doing these stupid numbers, just working from their laptop. You know, as long as they have laptop internet connection, they could have been on Mars or the bloody International Space Station and still grow their business. And I thought, wow, that's what I want. I wanted to travel, I wanted to see the world, and I didn't want to be told what to do, where to be, etc., etc. So yeah, I started researching Amazon for probably about 6 months, because I had no experience with business, so I didn't have a clue what the hell I was doing. And then the pandemic was a blessing in disguise for me, because I now got to work from home. So I saved a couple of hours commuting every day, spent all my time at home learning Amazon, trying to do product research, trying to figure out my way. Then I officially launched in November of 2020. And then I quit my job sooner than I should have, because I hated it so much. But I quit my job then on my 27th birthday in April of 2021. So about 5.5 months later.
Hey, did you plan that before the call? That was off the dome.
No, honestly.
Nice.
No, honestly.
Good summary.
No, very good, mate. So you to pick out a few points then. So Twitter was pretty instrumental to you, which is actually to let people in. It's where we first met, isn't it? Or we kind of came across each other on Twitter. So seeing people posting big numbers, were they in the private label space? Were they in the online arbitrage space? Because there's definitely a lot of OA folk on there that post up some numbers, especially around Christmas when they get the big sales.
Yeah, no, it was all. I never even heard of online arbitrage or wholesale. I would straight into private label. I always liked the idea of selling my own branded products and having sort of full equity over my own brand. So I actually hadn't even heard of arbitrage, mate. So it was just private label. So that's what I straight went into.
And so you were researching kind of every day, every night, learning the ropes. How long did it take you from kind of starting that research to actually getting your first product live and selling on Amazon?
So I came across Amazon FBA private labeling from Lawrence King back in, I think it was like December of 2019, and November 2020 is when I launched my first brand, or launched my first products. But I didn't take it like flat out seriously until the pandemic hit in March 2020, and I was at home all the time. So properly, doing flat out work, I'd say March 2020 is when I really started. So it took me about 7-8 months to fully launch.
And what kind of you're just over 3 years in now then, so can you let us know revenue wise what year 1, year 2, year 3, if you know it?
Yeah, I can give you a rough estimate. So the first full year, so I launched my first 2 products in November of 2020, and then I was a big mistake I did actually was when I quit my job. I was all this time had been building up to this, so I sort of enjoyed myself a bit too much than I should have. My business was doing about 4 or 5k a month profit then, so I was going traveling everywhere, doing all the nonsense that comes along with it. So I sort of didn't focus enough on sort of building my brand for that year. So, and then little stuff like, if you're new to Amazon, you don't realize how important sort of inventory management is, as a sort of one of the main skills to learn. So I was out of stock for a couple of months, that kind of stuff. So the first full year on Amazon, I did about $130,000 in sales for around just over 40,000 in net profit. And then the second year, I started taking it a bit more seriously, especially towards the end of the second year. So then 2022, I did just $250,000 in sales. Then last year I finished at about $485,000 or $486,000 in sales for last year. So I just say $500,000 because it sounds better. And then so it's sort of 100% growth every year so far. And then 2024, which is what we're doing this now, I'm on track and I'm hoping to hit the 7-figure in sales.
Nice, man. Congrats on the growth. That's super impressive. I think talking about kind of going all in then. So people talk about kind of burning the boats to help them make kind of put pressure on them. Was that a considered decision that you made then? Were you thinking, I'm going to quit? So even though, it's hard to pay yourself out of an Amazon business, especially early on, because you've got to reinvest to grow. So was that you thinking, I'm going all in? This is like the way your mind works?
Yeah, it is. So it's a blessing in disguise that I hated the situation I was in so much, if you know what I mean. Every day I hated going into work, and that's what gave you the motivation and drive to actually do this. So if your situation is just okay and you put up with it, it's not too bad, then I don't think you really have the full drive to basically do whatever it takes. And at the end of the day, launching a business is risky, so to go through that, you need to be able to have something that motivates you enough to do it. So the pandemic hit, and then I moved back. So back in July of 2020, so before I launched my business, I actually moved from where I lived at the time, near Bath, to where I was working, back home to Wales, where I now live. And it wasn't feasible for me to come out like 2 hours each way per day. So I knew at the time when I moved back, they were rolling out return to office, if you know what I mean. So I made sure that I had everything up and running in time, so I didn't have to go back to the office, if you know what I mean. So it depends on your personality traits, but for me personally, burning the bridges and not giving yourself a plan B is the way I work best. If I have that pressure on my back, if I don't have something that's really pushing me or motivating me, I can get quite lazy and complacent, unfortunately. So it's sort of a blessing in disguise for me that I was in that situation.
Right. Joe, in the time that you've been selling on Amazon, then how many different brands have you had, and how many do you have now at the minute?
So right now, basically my first brand, which I launched in November of 2020, it comprised of 3 products, and those 3 products each had a variation as well. So it was 6 technically in total. And that's a brand actually sold last year. So I exited from that brand in December of 2023. So that was sort of a brand which had a very, very small niche audience that didn't have much of a room to grow and expand into. So that's why I decided to sell it, because I could take those funds and reinvest it into my other brands. Right now I have 1 main brand selling on Amazon, and I have a further 2 brands in development, which will be launching probably around about the next 3 months.
Okay, nice. So talk us through then this brand that you sold from start to finish, launching it, growing it, and then selling it. What did that look like?
Yeah, so when I launched the brand, like I said, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I didn't really understand, brand building or anything on Amazon. So launched with 2 products, November of 2020. Then I expanded it into the 3rd product, I think in the Q3 of 2021. And then this product was heavily driven by subscribe and save customers. So it was a consumable product which people bought once every 1 or 3 months, depending which variation they bought. And off the back of that, because the market was relatively small, I put pretty much no effort into it, because the skills and my experience from selling on Amazon, I sort of picked up these other categories, these other brands and niches I could launch into to grow my brand further. So for me personally, I launched that brand, I expanded into the 3 products. I didn't launch any new products after Q3 of 2021, and I was just riding out the subscribe and save customer base, if you know what I mean. So it only took about an hour per month of my time, because I wasn't running any advertising on it. I wasn't, it was always just next lot of inventory, buy once every 3 months or whatever it might be, and that's all it was. So it was just sat there doing nothing, if you know what I mean, just paying, around about $4,000 and a bit profit per month. And it was just there, just as sort of a baseline for everything I was doing. But obviously I had bigger goals now, bigger targets. So towards the end of last year, I decided that I was going to sell it. And I ended up selling it, like I said, in December of 2023.
Nice. Can you say, Joe, where you sold it? Like you found, obviously there's a few places you can sell an Amazon business. There was obviously the Amazon aggregator option, and then there's websites like Empire Flippers, for example, where you can flip kind of smaller brands. So what route did you take to sell it?
Neither of those routes, actually. It was purely by chance. So I was chatting on Twitter. So Twitter is fantastic for networking with other entrepreneurs. I firmly believe it's the best sort of platform on the internet for that. And I was chatting with this guy who works he's actually a manager of golf courses across the US, and he's big into real estate investing. So he had a lot of real estate holdings, and he's not too bullish on the real estate market where he lives. So he sold all of his He sold all of his holdings completely, got out of real estate. And I've been talking to him for a couple of years, and he was interested in getting into the Amazon space, into e-commerce. And I said, listen, I have a brand which, doing this amount, done this, etc., etc. If you're interested, I'm looking at potentially selling it. So he's a private seller, a private sale, sorry. He's a private investor. He reached out to me, and that's who I sold it to eventually.
And that was all. So you mentioned the US there. So you never launched into the UK market. You went straight for the US with all of your brands.
Absolutely, no-brainer for me personally. The US market is so much bigger. They have way more people with way more money, and their economy is growing so much faster as well. So I think people are prepared to spend more there, and they have like 150 or whatever million plus Amazon Prime members. And the US Amazon is about 11 times bigger, I believe, than the UK Amazon. So for the same amount of work and effort, you could potentially get up to 10 or 11x the results. So I launched straight there.
I think one thing that's a bit like different about what you did, Joe, is you went straight into selling a consumable product, right? With the subscribe and save, subscribe and save.
Max and Bismarck. Yeah.
Was that like a conscious? Because anybody watching the channel will see that like we've been talking about this. This is the angle that we're moving into with our own brand. Was that like a conscious decision you made at that point to do that, or was it just like it happened? Do you know what I mean? Did you consciously think I want to launch a consumable product, or did you just kind of like fall into it?
No, I didn't consciously do it at all. So when I was doing product research at that time, I'm not too much of a artistically creative person in that sense. So I wanted to sort of do something that I know I could replicate again and again and again, something that would work. So for me, I just followed the data. So I landed on this niche. I saw a few competitors were selling products. I saw a common complaint amongst all those competitors, and I just improved on that. Basically, I developed the product with a manufacturer that I found, made the changes, made the improvement, and just launched it. It just happened to be a subscribe and save product, which is a massive benefit.
And that consumable product, a lot of people think that consumable products need to be sourced in the US, and a lot of them can be. But you were actually sourcing that from China, weren't you?
I was, yeah. So, it is, there are sort of more, you've got to make sure that you tick all the boxes when it comes to the regulation, documentation, testing, all that kind of good stuff. It is definitely doable. If I were to do it again, I probably would source in the US, to be honest. It's just added complications, importing, all that kind of good stuff. It was a little bit tricky. But obviously that's a good reason to actually proceed with it as well, because if it is a bit more tricky, more complicated, so many people are going to be put off by that, with not wanting to do the work or a bit too scared and all that kind of stuff to proceed. But yeah, for me personally, I did source from China, and it worked out.
Because I think it's a good moat, isn't it? It's a good moat for people that people are scared by the hard work, like you said. So it's almost like it's a protected niche in terms of jumping through those extra hoops and going that extra mile, which I know you've done with another of your brands now with the Oversize Products. I think it's a real good angle to take to kind of deter other competitors that are a bit lazier.
Oh, exactly, because all these sort of Amazon sellers, they promote a very specific sort of filters that you need to use when identifying these niches. So if everyone is looking there, if you look outside of there, then there's ample opportunities. It is a bit more difficult, but I think with that, if you are willing to put in the work, do the research, you're switched on, then it pays off long term massively.
I think it's funny because like I honestly remember watching videos early on when I first started, and Amazon gurus would literally say, if it goes in or on your body, stay well away. It's like the things that actually you can make really good money in and actually are really, really valuable. Amazon gurus tell people don't do that, and it's quite funny because and also like this idea of like sourcing it from China and having to get all of the regulations and approvals and everything. I think that's whenever I talk about consumables, that's the first thing that comes up. So how was that process of like getting, like, did it need FDA approval? Like, what did you need to get approval for? And how did that process work? Was it easy? What was it?
It was far simpler than I thought it would be, to be honest with you. So you had to get it's called an MSDS. I'm not sure what that stands for. You had to get a certificate of analysis to make sure that the product is what you say it is and all that kind of good stuff. The manufacturers themselves have to go through certain scrutiny from whichever regulator is regulating that specific niche, if you know what I mean. But as long as they have all the right documentation and it's gone through the right testing and you've gone through the steps properly, I mean, you can hire guys on Fiverr for like $30 or $40 to actually talk you through exactly what you need to do as well. So that's what I did. And as long as you can actually go through with that process, it does cost a little bit of money. I can't remember off the top of my head what I paid now. But as long as you do all that and you tick all the boxes and you do everything properly, it's more work, but it's less difficult than I think most people think it is, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Could you tell us, Joe, just because I know people are going to want to know, could you tell us what you exited that brand for?
Yeah, absolutely. So it wasn't sort of life-changing money. So as I said, the brand was doing about 4K profit per month. And, especially most of these brands are acquired using debt more than anything. So because interest rates have gone up, I think it is a bad time to exit a brand, to be honest with you. But with that said, I exited for $87,500 was the final amount. It's not bad, get an extra $87,500 in your account. And obviously that invested into my newer brands, which are scaling and growing now, was a bit of a no-brainer for me. So it was just under six figures, unfortunately.
I think as well, though, you were profitable from the first order, right? Which is pretty amazing with an Amazon business. So you had 3 years of 4K a month profit, which is what, 4 times 12, 50K a year, times so 150K plus the 80. 230K. God, I was surprised myself with that math there. Well so, mate, basically near enough $250,000 profit you made from that. How much was your initial investment into that business?
It's about $12,000 all in for the first order.
Yeah, I mean, that's a ridiculous. I'm not going to do that math on what that return is, but that's a pretty good ROI, I would say. Especially on 1 hour a month as well.
It is, exactly. And that's the thing. So what I found, because I wanted to travel quite a bit as well, so I wanted a business that would allow me to sort of be in control of my own schedule and work when I wanted, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's why I chose Amazon FBA, and 1 hour per month, considering the income is sort of 4 figures per hour worked, which is bonkers when you think about it. But that's because I wasn't growing the brand, and that's because I was literally just maintaining the brand at the absolute lowest level possible, if you know what I mean. So that's not typical of my brands now, which I'm actively, developing products, scaling, testing, those kinds of stuff, which take up more time.
So if we move on to the newer brands then, so the main one, I know it's US again. The first product you launched there, I think I touched on it before, was an Oversize product. Is that right?
It is, yeah. It was, yeah.
And that I remember when you launched that off the bat, it did pretty well, right? What can you tell us? Kind of walk us through that one a little bit, because it was very different to your previous brand.
Yeah, it was in a completely new niche, completely new everything. And for this, basically, the seller at the time was FBM, so it wasn't Amazon FBA. They were fulfilling the orders themselves. Terrible listing images, a clear room for improvement on the product as well. So at that time I launched into it, and I can't remember the exact figures, but I know that product hit 30K a month in sales, and almost 10K net profit in that month within the second or third month selling that product as well. So that has come down a little bit because more competition has come to the market. It's still very, very profitable, obviously, and still doing well, but it's doing sort of probably around about 30% less now. But yeah, that was a completely different category. And once again, because the other seller was doing FBM, because it was such a large product, expensive to ship in. I basically using other software as well, where I can send containers directly into my desired fulfillment center with Amazon, cutting costs that way, that kind of stuff. I was able to still make it work very, very well. So yeah, that was the first product in my second brand.
The technique you use there, you mentioned about going FBM, like to filter. I remember when you told us that, you're the first person I'd ever heard doing that, I think. So you were specifically looking for opportunities where people were not utilizing FBA.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's quite an easy improvement to make. So, with Amazon themselves, I think there's a lot of data out there that shows that Amazon obviously make more money when it's an FBA product because they fulfill the order, etc., etc. They make more money. So I think an FBA product like for like versus an FBM product will do considerably better. So that was one of the easy things for me to just offer this product FBA. That wasn't the only improvement I made, don't get me wrong. I actually developed the product, made changes to it as well. But just having that, I think, is a big sort of upsell and a big value add for a lot of people, especially if they're using Amazon Prime and the seller doesn't have seller fulfilled Prime, which these guys didn't. So, and they have to pay for delivery on top of that, all that kind of good stuff. It was a simple sort of place for me to come in and make sort of improvements.
Nice. Joe, just before we started recording, we started chatting a little bit about like your plans for like your new stuff and all of that. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that and like what you've got planned for, I guess, the next few years with, now you've had the exit, you've done, you've had this success, you kind of know the blueprint of launching products on Amazon. Like what's your plans to get even richer?
So the plan is basically, I'm going to diversify once. So my main brand on Amazon now is not consumable products, and I want to go back into the consumable space because I like the business model a lot. So if you can have a good product that customers really like, they will buy it month after month. Because for my first brand, I had some customers buy from me every single month for basically 3 years, if you know what I mean. Wow. So the LTV on that is absolutely huge. It was a bit difficult for me to calculate how much to spend on advertising because I didn't know how long they would buy my products for and all that kind of stuff. But I understand that process a bit better now. So what I'm doing with my new brand is I'm going omni-channel. So Amazon is still the bread and butter of everything I'm going to do, but I am diversifying and going direct to consumer as well. So my plan for this is basically reverse engineer what would work on TikTok more than anything, because as we know, TikTok is absolutely exploding. Reverse engineer what would capture people's attention on TikTok and then give a product based off the back of that, as opposed to right now I'm finding products on Amazon and trying to make them work for a specific customer. I'll try and do it the other way. So for example, it could be whatever the concern or the problem is. So if people have specific, what's the seasonal affectional disorder or something, where people who sort of have, if they get depressed in the winter, all that kind of stuff. That's just an example I'm giving. But basically, if I scrolled on TikTok to purposely try and find these niches and these products or these problems more so, and then basically whatever problems they're having, use the tools which are available to us now, which is Helium 10 on Amazon, so we can see what the niche is doing on Amazon, how well they're doing.
Discount and link down below, everyone.
Yeah, get it. It's essential. Helium 10.
5% off.
And then ChatGPT as well. So for example, a prompt I would use is something as simple as, if we're launching a product specific for seasonal affectional disorder or wherever it might be, give me scientifically proven products or supplements or wherever it might be that can make this better, and obviously link the studies and all that kind of stuff as well. So once you reverse engineer it from that, see what people are buying, see what's thrown out about how you can actually go and improve this, and then obviously reverse engineer it from that, source that, brand it towards that, and then drive as much sort of traffic as you can from especially TikTok to actually grow that brand as well, and Instagram and that kind of stuff too. And if it is a supplement, I'll just add, if it is a supplement, then obviously that's the best case scenario, and that's what I'm doing, because hopefully if it if it helps the customer and they love it and the brand is great, then they're going to buy from you month after month after month after month, which is what the goal is.
Do you know, Joe, your percentage of the brand that you sold, and I guess as a bit of a benchmark, how much of a percentage of your revenue was driven by Subscribe and Save?
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was very, very high. I mean, it was depending on the specific product as well. But it was, I think towards the end, it was comfortably over 50%. Comfortably over 50%. That's because I wasn't doing any new advertising or anything. I was just ranking organically on Amazon. New customers are buying me from there as well. But towards the end, I think I had about 890 Subscribe and Save monthly customers. So
then, so people that are new to this thing, that basically means, come the first of the month or whenever they charge it, you're going to get that much revenue, almost guaranteed every month, right? So you can forecast way easier. You can inventory management super easy. So what I mean, saying it for you, but what were the main benefits, and what are the main benefits of that subscribe and save, and for the ease of business?
Yeah, if you can do it, do it. I mean, for me personally, it was a game changer, like I said, because the niche itself wasn't that big, but I was quite early into the niche, so I had that sort of brand authority, and customers bought from me first and liked my product and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was, the benefits basically is, for a fact that if you switch everything off, just let it ride, that I didn't have a month where the number of subscribe and save customers I had went down, if you know what I mean. So even if I had, for example, 50 new customers buy that product, even if sort of 10 of those were to subscribe and save, it was a bit more than that, but even if only 10 of them did, then, it would sort of override then. Even if people did cancel their subscribe and save orders or their memberships or whatever it might be, it would still increase. So going forward, if I had advice, I just want to say subscribe and save products aren't just supplements or stuff that people consume. They could be anything. It could be razors, whatever it might be, whatever people buy month after month after month. Don't just sort of particularly look at those specific products. So if, when it comes back to whatever sort of my new strategy, which is reverse engineering a problem and taking it from there might be products that people buy month after month to help them as well. So it's not just supplements, but if you have a good brand, if you have a great product, and you have obviously good marketing behind it, then I think personally the upside of selling a consumable product, something that people do buy again and again, is obviously a bit of a no-brainer going forward.
And now,
definitely, yeah.
You went across to a trade show, didn't you, recently? So this is another, I think, a common theme with you that I'm seeing. Like I know you didn't have business experience prior to starting it, but you definitely don't think. You think outside the box, basically. It seems that you do different strategies, and you also think quite long term. I think you showed that with how long you were learning the model before you launched, and then I know recently you launched the latest product you launched. You put the results in the Honest FBA Discord and the results channel, which we'll pop it up here now. But you took a long time to get that to market, and then you saw the dividends straight away, right? You saw people weren't prepared to solve those problems. The point I'm getting to here is I know you recently went across to the US, so you didn't just source on Google. You actually went all the way to the States from South Wales. Was it to source a new product, or can you kind of talk us through what that was?
Yeah, it was. So, like I said, I'm based in the UK, but I do spend a lot of time in the US because it's my favourite place to be, and it's because the business is based out there. But yeah, for me personally, I wanted to sell, I'm selling a consumable product, so it's something that people buy month after month after month for this brand that I have now. And because I was based in the UK, actually working with US suppliers was quite difficult, so a lot of them wouldn't come back to you. I'd give my British number, so an easy way to get around that is to buy a US number from Skype or wherever it might be for cheap, and then you could call them that way. But I was just giving my UK number and all this, and no one was getting back to me. So I saw that there was a trade show in Atlantic City, never been, excuse for me to go, to actually go there and meet these suppliers as well. So I went over there, flew out, spent a couple of weeks out there in the US as well, met with these suppliers, and I'm so glad I did, because the companies I was reaching out to that weren't coming back to me, when I was meeting them in person, talking with them face to face, explaining my brand, what I wanted to do, they were great, and I've built a lot of relationships from that, which will obviously pay off long term as well. So yeah, that's especially when you're working with US suppliers. If you can go to meet them wherever they are, then they're going to take you far more seriously, and they're much more willing to work with you. Yeah,
I think there's like the downside traditionally of sourcing in the US. Like we tried it a number of times in a website called Thomasnet that people go on. It's super antiquated. Generally, people don't get back to you. If they do, they're so unwilling to move on like 20,000 unit MOQs, or so you're getting a full truckload of stuff, and we've had it very difficult in the past. For us recently, where we're sourcing in the US now, we haven't gone as far as meeting the suppliers out there. We're going to go this year and to see a few of them, but getting on the phone, like you said, it's probably the biggest benefit I've seen versus sourcing in China, which is still good. Like we still do that, and it's still definitely viable. We're going to have products from China and from North America, just like you, but picking up the phone, speaking to someone, and then you're almost like gaining a month of progress in one phone call, because you can really get them to understand your vision. And it's just been so much so much easier. And once you get in with one who can do multiple things for you, then it's a pretty amazing speed that you can move at, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And especially when you sort of want to build that brand connection with the customers as well. I think there's a lot of studies that have come out that have shown that even the patriotic people, the US, wherever it might be, whatever country it is, if a product is made in the US or if a product is made in China, if it is cheaper, the one made in China is cheaper, they will still buy that one, if you know what I mean. So if you can add a lot of value, obviously, to the product and then make it in the US and build that brand connection, you can definitely make it work, especially for consumable products, because people are more wary of consumable products that are obviously made in China, even if they sort of tick all the boxes when it comes to the regulations. So for me personally, it was the sensible approach, because right now I've gone from just finding products that I want to sell on Amazon to make money to I want to build multiple 7, multiple 8-figure brands. And I think to do that, you really need to have that, obviously, the connection with the customer is the most important thing. And a big part of that is, especially in the consumable space, is working with US suppliers who made in the US and all that kind of stuff as well. I think it'd be quite difficult to do it made in China that way.
Yeah.
Are there any... go on, Al, you go.
I was just going to say, I mean, you've obviously done a lot, Joe, in the space of a few years. There'll be people watching this that are like just at the beginning of like getting into, maybe even deciding whether or not they should start Amazon FBA. Obviously, those people should all join Honest FBA. That's a given. But
Obviously.
if you had any advice to people like just starting to get into Amazon FBA now, after the success that you've had, what do you think that would be?
I'd probably say just think long term. A lot of people want to make money now. Obviously, in this day and age, everyone's dopamines are fried and they want to make money now. And a lot of it comes from a place of sort of bad actors inside our space, to be honest with you, where people tell them you can make 6 figures in like 2 months and all this bollocks. So basically, what I would say is think long term. So think maybe 3 to 5 year time frame. Everything becomes sort of a bit clearer then. So the hard times, the month where you make no progress at all, sometimes it's all relative. So when you think 3 to 5 years, 7-figure exit, wherever your goal is, then keep that in the back of your mind. It makes it so much easier, because obviously if you start now, or if you start this time next year, I can promise you, if you start now, then in 12 months' time, you're going to be so much further ahead than you would be if you start in a year, which is obvious. And then you'd be kicking yourself once again, because a lot of people who do want to start an online business have probably started or researched a few, then gave up, and then went off it. They lost motivation, wherever it might be, and they go through the same cycle. So just start, even if you do start and it doesn't go as you planned. When you do everything properly on Amazon FBA, verify demand, verify that the product is better, great branding, all that kind of good stuff. The worst case scenario is I've launched failed products. Okay, so that first brand I launched, I tried launching other products sort of in different niches and they were failed, but I never lost a penny on any of them. So let's say I was targeting a $60 sale price and the rest of the competition were doing $40. I already verified beforehand that this amount of people were searching for this product. This competitor sold this amount per month for the last 2 years. I use Google Trends, so the niche itself is growing, it's on an upward trajectory. So I then verified by ordering samples, testing the product, that the product is better than the competitors. So then if you launch that product, let's say your break-even sale price is $35 and you're targeting a $60 sale price. Let's say you can't get that, the market is not ready to pay that. The worst case scenario is you drop the price because you know and you have proof and you verified that these guys are selling for $40 anyway. So you just drop the price, you sell through the inventory over a period of 3 to 4 months, you get your money back and you go again. So if you do everything proper, unless you royally mess up and try launching a product that's restricted on Amazon or prohibited, wherever it might be, then obviously you're in issues then. But obviously working with mentors and stuff, which I didn't really have properly at that time, can sort of guide you and make sure that you don't do those costly mistakes, is where obviously getting help comes in. But basically you do everything properly. Worst case scenario is you get your money back and you go again. Whatever you've learned, you apply it next time. And the best case scenario is, yes, you can get your targeted sale price. You're making X amount of profit per month, which is what you were targeting. You build that profit up and you launch other products again. So, when you look at risk, it's not sort of just, is it risky or is it not risky? It's very, very subjective, and risk-reward ratio with Amazon is off the charts.
Great advice.
Mate, clip that, Alex. That was it.
The funny thing is I did I did a video recently where I pretty much said exactly the same thing. Is like people come into most businesses with no experience, no skills, no knowledge, and then they expect to make money in like 3 months.
Yeah.
And like if you focus on just doing it, what you realize after you've done it for 2-3 years, and that seems like a long time, but we all know how fast that goes.
Yeah.
Like you build up a set of skills that are just so valuable. And what it means is like if your business can go to zero, and it doesn't really matter because like it's not about that business really. It's about like the skills that you've got. Like all us three now, if you go back 4 years, 5 years, like we're just so different in the skills that we've got, and it's those skills that make you money. It's not the actual first product you launch. Like I've got this one here. I always show to people like the first product that I launched in Spain. You know what I mean? I didn't make much money, but like I learned how to launch a product on Amazon, and that's led us to where we are today. And now we're making good money. It's that mindset shift of not thinking about like, okay, what can I make in 6 months? It's like, nah, what the skills you can learn in the next 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, and then eventually those skills compound, and then all of a sudden you're like, shit, I'm actually making good money here. And then you see all these different opportunities, and then you know it everything just compounds into starting to make good money. So I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, 1,000,000%, man. I think the skills you learn from Amazon are so transferable to whatever business you want to get into. I mean, it sounds a bit crazy, but my problem now is I don't have the time or resources to launch all the businesses that I want to, and I know I could make work using these skills. And I think a lot of people look at the risk of starting a business, but the risk of being reliant on one employer paying you a salary month after month for 40 years is so much more. It's, you know, the stories I hear.
Terrifying.
You know, companies going under, people losing their pensions, people losing their jobs for stupid reasons that are not their fault, if you know what I mean. The increase of AI, if people want to sort of, you know, realistically, AI is going to take the majority of jobs of the next decade. I mean, that's a given, especially with how quickly it's advancing. So if you think you're safe in a job now, I don't want to scare you, but it's very, very unlikely that your job is going to be secure after 5 to 10 years. And when you think of it like that, you need skills to be able to be self-reliant, and you've got to build your own infrastructure to be able to make sure you can support yourself. And that's far more important than, you know, basically, that's far more basic. The upside of doing that is far bigger than sitting in a job. You've got to start something for yourself than just relying on someone else to make sure that your house is paid for or your kids are eating every month, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's not to be dramatic, Joe, right? Yeah.
No, but it's not. No, exactly. It sounds a bit doomsday, but it's true. It is true.
I read an article this morning about, I can't remember the brand, but it's a huge, huge company, and they've basically been testing AI, and they're going to replace all of their customer support with AI because it's already performing better. Klarna, yeah. And it's Clara, yeah. What's it called? Klarna, that's it. I think it's $40 million a year they said they're going to save already just with what they've implemented now, which is fucking nuts. And obviously not everybody works in customer service, which no disrespect to anybody in that, but it is one of the lower skilled sort of like fields. But even, you know, graphic design, like copywriting, all of these things are just going to get slowly replaced. And that's one of the things, like selling physical products and learning how to do product development. It's one of the things like people don't really realize. And again, I've talked a little bit about on Twitter recently is like the skills that you learn in a business and how they connect to like the upside of what you're doing. And I've bashed a little bit like online arbitrage, for example. One of the reasons I think online arbitrage is not that great of a business model is because the skills that you learn are not really that valuable on the upside. Like if you compare it side by side with actually building your own brand, where you've got to do new product development, you've got to do marketing, advertising, copywriting, customer psychology, supply chain management, all of these things that you've got to do. It's not just about the immediate cash that you make, it's about the future money that you're earning through learning those skills. And business models like online arbitrage, like you're not really forced to learn those skills. So like, I'm not saying that's going to get replaced or anything like that, but that's one of the beauties of I think building your own brand as well is the skills are just so invaluable. And yeah, I do think, it sounds a bit like doomsday sort of stuff, doesn't it, with the AI thing, but like it's going to change everything that's going on. So it's definitely an important point, yeah.
I'll tell you one thing that AI can't replace, and that is arm wrestling. So can we just end on this, Joe? You know I was going to bring it up.
You have to come up to
as an extracurricular activity outside of being this entrepreneur and multiple business owner that you are, you came to meet us in Barcelona. We'd known you for a little while, and you came over. We were having a few drinks, went for a steak, and then you mentioned that you had you were missing. I think you were missing arm wrestling training that night, and we were like, and you glazed over it, and we were just like, hold up, let's just go back to what you just said. So, just explain to what you told us on the night. Can you explain what you do? Because I don't think anyone has ever put content on YouTube about this.
Oh wow, you have to bring that up, didn't you? But yeah, I long story short, recreationally for fun, I compete in arm wrestling tournaments as well. So I haven't been training properly for the last 4 to 5 months because I've been traveling so much and all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, a couple of years ago during the pandemic, I was watching these videos online. I thought, this looks fucking cool. Do you know what I mean? So there's a club near me. I go arm wrestling. I enter competitions and stuff like that. And I've been doing that now for about 2 years, I think. And I love it. It's awesome. So yeah, that's what I do.
Would you say you are the best arm wrestler in FBA in the space?
Oh, comfortably.
Wow.
Comfortably.
Well, look, you're going to come to our next live event. It's going to be in London on May the 9th. There's a bit of a plug. Joe's going to be there. And we're going to set up a special arm wrestling table in the
we?
No, made that. I'm joking. Someone
I need to get training, man. I need to get training.
Now, look, I had to bring that up, Joe. Mate, really appreciate you coming on. We'll wrap it up now. I think as you mentioned previously, you're in Honest FBA. You're a mega valuable part of the Discord and the community. I think you've been really transparent with your journey so far. And I think people take away a lot from it, and you're also very helpful within the community. I know we kind of did this part one of this within the community previously on a live call, and the questions that came in and that you answered, I think people found it incredibly helpful. So I want to say publicly, I appreciate you doing that. Thanks for doing this. If you want to follow Joe, Twitter is the best spot, Joe?
Yeah, I'm not being as active as I should be on there, but yes, I'm in the Honest FBA community where I'm active. I'm not too active on Twitter, but that'll change. But yeah, find me on Twitter at 1FFJoe.
Sweet. We'll put the link down below, and I'm sure people will reach out with any other questions they have.
They're welcome to do it. They can call me up for an arm wrestle. They can do whatever they want. It's fine.
All right. Nice one, mate.
Joe.
See you soon.
Thanks, boys. Speak soon. Bye.